Hello friends, this is Carrie and welcome back to I Like Reddit channel. I hope you all are staying safe and healthy. Friends, today we have 5 stories out of the Entitled Parent subreddit. Let's begin. Our first story is posted by Brandy Aiden Love. Entitled Mom and Entitled Grandma tried to kill residents of a group home. Reading a post about someone else's experience in a group home setting reminded me of this one. It was a lot more traumatic than it sounded, and I don't talk about it much. Sorry if it got a little long. Too long didn't read is in the title. Many years ago, I worked in a group home, and for the privacy of the residents, we had a set visitation room with visitation hours by appointment only. Appointment only so that 2 families weren't trying to visit at the same time. It had a separate entrance and a door that shut off from the rest of the house. It had a half bath, a TV, cable hookup, game console with maybe 50 games, DVD player and about 150 movies, board and card games, along with a nice comfy seating and a small 4-person table. Visitors were not allowed anywhere but the room and if any other residents were home. It didn't matter if Bill wanted to show off his new bedding set or if Jack's mom wanted to see if he had new clothes. If the other residents were home, no. The families of 5 of the residents were fine with this. Kyle's mother and grandmother were not. They firmly believed that they were within their rights to enter the rest of the house and inspect it and his housemates. He was their baby, and they had the right by God. Actually, no. The residents of the home were 30 to 40-year-old men with developmental and physical disabilities. They were all actually wards of the state. The fact that they were even allowed to know where he was, let alone visit, was a huge privilege. Our agency had many other homes where families of the residents had no idea where they were and weren't allowed to see them. The families were only allowed to contact the case manager and inquire about them. Back to Kyle's mom and grandma. It was a constant battle to keep them out of the rest of the house. It got to the point where we had to have extra staff members during their visit. They had to sit outside the connecting door while the visits were going on and physically stand blocking their way when they would attempt to enter. I lost track of how many times we ended up calling the police to have them removed from the main part of the house before that happened. That's when they started calling the police on us. After the 3rd time of them calling the police to demand entrance to the house, they lost the privilege of visiting. Kyle was moved to another home where they weren't allowed to know the address. This didn't go over well, to put it nicely. They were adamant that Kyle was still in our home and they threatened us several times that we would pay for keeping their baby from them. A restraining order was granted against them, keeping them 800 feet from the house, staff, residents, and no calls to the house. It all came to a head one night when at dark 30, I was locking up the house for the night. All the doors and windows had to be checked and the alarm set. Another staff member was doing bedtime medicine. Another 2 were helping out with bedtime routines and getting the laundry going. I kept telling the staff that I smelled smoke, like a campfire, just a faint whiff of it. They said I was crazy and I had just walked the entire house and saw nothing burning. It must be a neighbor having a small backyard fire or something, and I got a whiff while closing the windows and it stuck in my nose. It was finally strong enough for the others to smell. In pairs, we checked out the house again. Nothing but the smell was getting stronger. We met back in the living room and decided to go ahead and call the fire department when we realized that we could see wisps of smoke in the living room. We woke the residents and had them put on their shoes and jackets. The smoke in the living room was now clearly visible and starting to make its way towards the bedrooms and triggered the alarms. Finally, protocol was to evacuate and get the residents into a van. The living room was the exact center of the house, with an open floor plan, with the kitchen on one side and laundry room on the other. The bedrooms were through the living room, and to the left and right along with 2 bathrooms, the visitor's room, the office being on the opposite end of each other. Down the hall we shuffled to the office because the van was parked on the other side with the keys in the office. As we came around the corner of the house, we could see the source of the smoke. Our front porch was on fire. The house was brick, which is what prevented it from spreading outward, but it was still spreading upward towards the roof. The police and the fire department arrived just as we reached the van. The fire department went to work on the house. Police head towards us, except 4 came running up to us. It was Kyle's mother and grandmother along with 2 unknown men. The 2 women started screaming for Kyle, and they were here to rescue him. We had endangered him by allowing him to live in a fire trap. They suddenly realized there was no Kyle in the group, and now screaming that we had left him to burn in the house. They were suing us. They would shut us down and have us in prison for murder. The police quickly asked if we had left anybody in the house. We answered no. We have all 6 6 men, but for their safety, we had to get them in the van and then we would sort this out. The police held the mother and the grandmother back from us while they continued to shriek about Kyle, and we had left him to die. 2 of the staff loaded them while me and my co-workers spoke to the police, starting with the facts that those 2 women had restraining orders for his safety and for ours. Kyle had been moved to a location unknown to them. They were cuffed immediately and told to pipe down. We proceeded to explain what had transpired that evening. The fire was doused quickly while we did this. One of the firemen came over to speak to the officers, and we heard them say that the preliminary evidence is that the fire was set deliberately. There would be a formal investigation. Kyle's mother and grandmother were arrested for violating the restraining order and suspicion of arson. The 2 men were arrested on suspicion of arson as well. The results of the investigation determined a clear case of arson. There was also a deliberate rigging of a device to the door leading out of the visitation room and would have been fatal to a person opening the door if anyone was close by, debilitating if not fatal. The 4 were indicted on vandalism, arson, and 8 counts of attempted homicide, 2 counts of attempted murder. It came out that they were unaware of the other side door, which saved lives. They got plea deals and got 7 to 10 years each. This was back in the early 2000s, so I don't remember what exactly the sentence was. Our next story is posted by Disgruntled Ewok, entitled Mom Goes Berserk on a Random Dude in a Food Court. This happened a few years ago and I just remembered it while browsing this sub. It was a regular weekday and I went to have lunch with my then girlfriend who worked at the mall. She had her lunch break at exactly noon. So when we got there, the food court was insanely packed, with practically all the tables taken. As we're waiting for our food, we see the following drama unfold. A nerdy-looking guy gets his order from a Chinese food place. Nearby, a wild Karen appears clutching a tray of pizza and soda for her little crotch goblin. Karen is looking for a table and spots a small 2-seater nearby. However, the table is filthy with spilled soda and bits of food. She makes a face of disgust and continues her search. The nerdy guy sees the same table, puts his tray on one of the chairs, and uses some of the napkins to carefully clean the table. With the table more or less clean, he then proceeds to sit down and eat. Karen looks back and sees the guy sitting at the now clean table. She grabs her kid and dashes back to it. She proceeds to scream at the top of her lungs at this hapless Chinese food-loving soul who has dared to sit at her table. The guy tries to get a word in, but she continues her tirade non-stop for a solid 5 minutes. How dare you steal the table from her precious baby? By now, everybody around has fallen silent and is staring at this majestic beast, the Karen in her natural habitat, screeching as loudly as her vocal cords would allow. Then, without warning, and before her victim can even pronounce a single word, she takes her kid's soda from her tray and pours it all over this dude's food. The guy just stares at her in shock. The kid starts crying and everybody just stares. My girlfriend runs to get nearby security officers. Karen sees her talking to the officer and panics. She throws her tray to the floor, grabs her kid by the arm, and hightails it as fast as her appendages allow her. Meanwhile, the kid just wails behind her, hungry and thirsty. We went over to talk to Karen's victim for a few minutes. The poor guy only had half an hour for a lunch break, and now all he had was a plate full of nasty soup composed of sugary water, carbonation, and fried rice. To this day, I still remember his face of defeat in the face of a Karen. If you're enjoying the content so far, please put a heart emoji in the comments section down below. Our next story is posted by Boats and Chokes. Neighbor lady is mad that I won't let her kids use my pool unsupervised. I just moved into a new place with a pool out back. Neighbor lady comes up to the fence one day while I was having a beer and doing some yard work. After greetings and whatever, the rest goes like this. EM. The people who lived here before would let my kids use the pool in the summertime. They're really sad that they won't be able to do that anymore. Why guilt trip me? Just ask. Me. Oh, well, I don't mind as long as you're here to watch them. EM. Well, the last people would watch them because their kids were there too and they'd just sit out back. Me. Okay, but I can't watch your kids. If you're going to be in my pool, you have to be there. EM. I don't have time. I don't know why you can't just sit there and watch them so they can swim. I had no idea how to respond to this. She just caught me off guard. Now I think I need to change the lock on my gate because I'm afraid that she has a key and will send her kids over alone. I don't have a problem with kids using the pool, but I don't want to babysit the kids for someone that I don't know around water. Our next story is posted by KRL55. My dad would rather have a celibate daughter or no daughter. Longtime lurker, first time poster. So I was born and raised in the US with Syrian parents. I've been living on my own for the past 5 years with minimal financial support from them. Due to some crazy circumstances, I have had to move in with a friend who happens to be male. Now, the guy and I have had casual intimacy on occasion, but we're safe about it. The fact that I'm living with a guy is a huge no-no for my parents. But I'm 23 and paying my own bills, so really it's none of their business. My mom kind of tricked me into telling my dad that I'm not a virgin, which is a must in our culture, and now that we're no longer on speaking terms, my father keeps saying, "What if I have a heart attack and die tomorrow?" Despite the culture that I was raised in and love some aspects of, I subscribe to Western culture more so. They think that they are entitled to know and control what I do with my body or who I live with, and as a 23-year-old adult, I'm finally putting my foot down, but it's causing massive problems. Honestly, I don't know what to do. Am I a bad person for living my life when I know the amount of stress I'm causing them? I've been extremely open with them on all aspects of my life and who I live with, but I just don't feel comfortable talking about my private life like that. Am I to blame? I'm asking for advice if you have any. Edit. I'm not sure if this belongs in the tag. Edit 2. I didn't expect the sheer magnitude of responses I got, and I can't reply to all of you, but thank you for the kind words. My mom will come around. She's already starting, but I haven't spoken to my dad since the argument. He'll be okay eventually. Even in Syria, they were more old-fashioned than usual because of the Armenian genocide. They stuck to their original way of thinking like concrete, so I get it, it's hard to deal with. I'm currently working on reading your messages and I can't help but agree. Edit 3. I'm not in any danger of honor killings and not present in our history. We are Armenian by lineage, but my parents are Syrian by birth. So it's part religion and part intimacy equals love. So it's for both females and males, but only girls are judged. Pretty hypocritical, but again, no danger. My dad wouldn't do something like that. The mentality is not so much as I am property as much as that is what we practice in life and want to see me find true love. My dad is more upset than angry. Our final story is by Rose Renatus. When your entitled parents tries to steal your children from you. Anyone else have a mother, or in my case, a father, who keeps competing with you for education and affection of your children, who keeps on unauthorizing every choice, move, or judgment call you make in front of your children, who keeps charging at you on a daily basis with constant micro or macro aggressions without so much as a good morning? I've lost my job and home in the pandemic, and so I had to move back in with my parents along with my wife and my 1-year-old baby. It's been almost a year now and I still cannot find another job, and my mother keeps turning our lives into unbearable abusive hell. Her logic is my home, my rules. She treats my son wonderfully well, but I know it comes from very sick intent. She wants to gain his affection over us, his parents. One day, over a simple argument over my child's sleeping schedule, my wife and I are following his pediatrician's recommendations. My mother charged at me to attack me physically. I'm a 42-year-old man. I ran into my bedroom and locked the door, so she kept punching the door and yelling with all her strength. My baby was sleeping in his cradle in the same room with me. He woke up startled and started crying terrified. It took a very long time to calm him down. Eventually my mom calms herself down, but regrets nothing. She's never apologized for anything in her entire life, and we can only wait for the next explosion, unless we follow each and every one of her commands, some of which pose health threats. We don't have anywhere else to go, and my wife and I can't find jobs. My wife's family lives overseas. That's all the stories I have for today. Links to the original Reddit post will be in the description box below. Please stop on by Reddit to show the OP some love and an upvote. If you enjoy my videos, please comment, like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell notification to let you know when I upload new videos. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.